had a thought that maybe something that holds Go back from being included in various popular media and things like films and TV shows, anything where we try to use Go as a metaphor or just even just show it as something very like intellectual, as what they usually do for chess, right? Strategic battle of intellect. I think one thing that might hold Go back is the fact that the complexity of Go, it's kind of hidden behind the stones. Of course, chess's complexity is also hidden behind those pieces, but at least the pieces look intricate. And I mean, people are also familiar with chess, but with Go, you look at the thing, they could be playing like a giant version of tic-tac-toe for all they know. You can't really see the complexity necessarily right away. And like the fact that you can't, if you were to show a board state of a game of Go versus Komoku, and you just can't tell like what the difference is if you're an average person, I feel like maybe that is lost on them. And so you can't really expect that theme of high intellect, strategic struggle, battle to get through to a common audience when they don't know the mechanics of the game and the complexity and the beauty of the game. I've always thought of Go as something that has a hidden beauty to it until you learn how to play the game. Then you start to see beyond the matrix, and you can see how beautifully the stones are laid out and what it all means and how little you know about them. You're listening to Startpoint, the show about Go for Go fans away from the board. And it's that time again when I have to announce the end of the season. Next week's episode 135 will be the final season of season 3 of Startpoint. But don't worry, Startpoint will return with season 4 on September 14th. So mark your calendars, take a break from Go for the next 8 weeks that I'm going to be gone. I will miss you guys, and I'll be just taking it easy for a little bit, and then coming back with more Startpoint on, again, September 14th. I'll remind you guys again next week, but it is coming up. The next episode is going to be the season finale, which I don't really have anything planned for. I don't think I really have like big events for season finales, mostly because I don't have an idea of what could be like a big blockbuster episode of Startpoint, but regardless, it's going to be called the finale just to mark that it's the end, and then the premiere will be again on September 14th. Anyway, I will remind you next week as well. I want to start this episode off with a congratulations to Chio Wu, hopefully I'm not saying it too badly, on becoming the latest North American pro of the North American Go Federation. He won the NA Pro Qualifiers this year, which was held at the Seattle Go Center, made famous by Nick Sabicki, of course. And I visited there one time, and I've talked about it a long time ago. So it was kind of cool seeing the room where the club was. And I visited the current edition of the club. I think it was held in a different building at some point. And now it's this one. And so congrats to the newest pro. And speaking of competitions and pro qualifiers, that's what I wanted to talk about in today's episode. I'm sure you've noticed by the title, tournament formats. Now, this isn't really like the most Go specific topic, but I think it's relevant enough to talk about with Go players. There's so many different formats for tournaments, and it can get quite confusing. I know I was when I first started looking at this stuff, with the McMahon and the Swiss and the double elimination, single round robin, all that stuff. You know, the Smash Bros community is like one of the most familiar with this type of stuff because it is a locally run community. If you don't know, Smash Bros Melee, right? That's the one on the GameCube. You need a GameCube to play it. I mean, before you did. Right now, there's like there are a few more options to play it online and things like that. That's kind of more of a recent development. But back in the day, like you couldn't like have a tournament online like in Rocket League where you just like join up, right? You don't have to know how the tournament works necessarily, and they're usually not very complicated. But if you're in that community, you had to go and join up with the tournament director and understand how the pairings work and how everything like that had to be all solved out, because all local, all in person, similar to Go, right? And I think I see a lot of comparisons that can be made between the two games. Go, likely you have been to a tournament and you have entered in with one of these tournament formats, and you might not even know what format it used, or maybe you did know by name, but you didn't fully understand what the format was. Well, I'm trying to break down all that for you guys today. So by the end of the episode, hopefully you have a good foundational understanding of different possible tournament formats that you could be placed in or be watching for a pro game, and what it all means, because I know I have asked what some of this means sometimes when I've gone over different pro game tournaments and things like that. So we will start with the plain and simple, pure, most easy to understand, and what you might actually imagine in your head if somebody says tournament, and that's the single elimination tournament. This is like if you imagine a tournament table, or if you've ever seen an anime, Carno Go, where you see these players like rise up and then they whittle down into two finalists. It's kind of like the World Cup, which I can get into. This is single elimination. So the concept being you have a group of players and everybody gets paired up. And we'll talk about pairing later, but basically everybody gets a partner. Hopefully you have an even number of players for a one-on-one game like Go. If not, you're going to have to use a bye of some kind. A bye, simple term, means you don't play that round. And there are different ways of accommodating buys and how to give out points and things like that. But let's keep it simple. Let's say you have an even number of players. Let's say you have 32 players. Then that means you have 16 groupings. Each grouping has 2 players, a 1v1 game. So 16 groupings with 32 players total. This is round 1. Each grouping will have 1 winner and 1 loser. And this is called single elimination because you only have 1 elimination chance and you're out. If you lose in that first group, you're eliminated. You're done for. Bye-bye. So then what happens? 32 divided by 2 is 16. Those 16 players that lost are out of the game. 16 players that won are still in the game. They advance to the next level, and it is 8 pairings. Same thing happens. Half of them die, half of them move on. Now you have 8 players remaining, 4 pairings. Half of them die, half of them move on. Now you have 4 players left, right? I'm on the right track, right? I'm kind of losing it. 4 players left, and that's 2. I feel like I skipped one. You go 8 pairings of the 16 people, and then 8 of them are gone. So now you have 4 pairings of the 8 people, right? So that's the one I skipped. 4 pairings of the 8 people remaining, and then half of those people are gone. Now 4 players left, and that's 2 pairings. This is the semifinals. So before the round right before this is the quarterfinals. Now we're in the semifinals. You have 2 pairings of 2, and then you cut 2 of those players, and you have the 2 finalists. They face off, and the last elimination occurs. And so it's called single elimination because you get eliminated once and then your run is over. And so the second place of this tournament format has lost 1 time. And the last place of the tournament also has lost only 1 time. Everybody loses 1 time, and that's their out. So single elimination is important to understand because you have to understand single elimination to understand double elimination. Double elimination is one of my favorite tournament formats, and it's because it has a comeback mechanic. That means that you must be eliminated twice in the tournament before you are eliminated. And the way that works is it starts off kind of the same as a single elimination tournament. Let's say you have the 32 players paired up again, but this time all the losers of the first round now go into a separate bracket. So while the 16 move up into the next round, the losers of the first round get to fight one more time. Does that make sense? They get to fight one more time, and then they shed half their players as the winners shed half their players. The second round, which includes the first double elimination round, is what I don't know what it's actually called, but the losers bracket round, the first losers bracket round and the second winners bracket rounds. After that round, the losers of the winners bracket now trickle down to the losers bracket and face off against the survivors. So in the losers bracket, that first round, those players who got eliminated a second time are out of the game forever. They're out of the tournament forever. So the people who advance on to that next round from the losers bracket get to face the losers of the winners bracket. And they keep shedding like this. So basically, the losers keep competing amongst themselves, shedding off half of their players, while the winners keep doing it, shedding off half their players and placing those losers into the losers bracket to face off against the remaining losers. Hopefully, this is all making sense to you guys. I know it's a little hard to follow without some visual diagrams. But essentially, what happens is, well, one thing that I like about this is that you have a good motivation to keep going in the winner's bracket, because the further you go in the winner's bracket, the fewer opponents you have to kind of claw your way through in the loser's bracket. Because you don't have to face those first few rounds of losers, and because those have been eliminated amongst themselves. So what happens is, in this format, at the very end, you have a single winner of the winner's bracket, but they're not done. They haven't taken the whole tournament, because out of the ashes rises the winner of the loser's bracket, and they come and challenge the winner of the winner's bracket. Now, sometimes it's not very dramatic. Sometimes the top player of the loser's bracket is really just the one who just got eliminated in the second to last round of the winner's bracket, and so it's like, oh, hello again. Let me fight you again. But sometimes it's very dramatic. Someone who got cut in the first round was able to survive wave after wave of losers brackets, and then claw their way to the top and meet the top player of the winner's bracket and face off one last time, and then maybe potentially take the tournament. So I really like this one. It's a very dramatic one sometimes, and it also means that your whole game doesn't depend on one elimination, though of course this kind of format will lengthen the tournament, which is also a practical consideration. So those are the basic elimination format tournaments. Another very basic and fundamental tournament format is called a round robin. I'm sure you've heard of this term before, and if you've been watching the World Cup, you also know about this as well. In the group stage of the World Cup. So basically, a round robin tournament is when you have a group of people, and usually it's not going to be a huge group of people, because a round robin typically necessitates each player to play against every other player, and that's the basic concept of a round robin. We're not going to have this kind of table-like structure where it climbs up in a pyramid. You're going to have a point-based format where if you have, let's say, 6 people, each person plays against every other person one time. That's the most basic, simple round robin format. So you don't even have to be that strict about the order. You just have to make sure all the games are played. If you have a group of 6 friends and you want to play a tournament, round robin is perfect, because I think if you don't have enough people, these single elimination tournaments, they kind of end too quickly. Someone gets you get eliminated and you're out. Round robin keeps everyone active and everybody can play all the time. And basically, there's no one eliminated. It's just everyone plays a game against everybody else. So it's like you play against Mark, Susie, Matthew, and Amy, and then you haven't played a game against Edward. It's like, well, now I know I got to play against Edward. You and I have not played yet. So the thing that ties us all together is you just track the wins and losses, and you award different amounts of points for those. Sometimes if the game has draws, then you need to account for that. Maybe have half points for draws or something like that. With Go, that's not a problem because we almost never have draws. But it's a good format for a smaller number of players, which is why in the World Cup they use it in the group stage, because you have groups of 4 in the group stage. And in that group stage, they have all these four pairings, and that's just 3 games per team, right? To just play against everyone in their group, and then they just add up the points, and whoever has the highest points, they move on. So that's the round robin format. Very simple, probably the simplest tournament format, but really kind of only works with smaller groups. So with the World Cup, they have the round robin with the smaller groups, and then those smaller groups have people move on to the next rounds, which are like single or double elimination. I guess more like single elimination. So anyway, next one. Next one is also very interesting, which is a win and continue format. So this is kind of famously done in the Shin Ramen Cup. Is this called the Shin Ramen Cup, or is it called the Shin Cup? But anyway, it's that one with the tournaments with China, Korea, Japan, and each team has a team of 5, and they have an order in which they play. And when they play against each other, the person who wins stays and plays more games, whereas the person who loses is cut from that team. And so it's almost like each team has 5 lives, and each player represents a life. And that first player can play as long as they can play until they lose, in which afterwards they are cut from the team. And well, not cut from the team, but basically they cannot play for the team for the duration of the tournament, and then the next player in line has to take over. And I think typically what they do is they put the weakest player at the front and the strongest player at the back. So, because what happens is if you put Shin Jin-so as your first seat, then your other players just won't play. And have they done that before? I feel like that's ringing a bell, and they've actually done that where none of the other Korean players were able to play because Shin Jin-so just kept on winning. But anyway, it's a strategy in and of itself. I don't know. Maybe they can get kind of worn out, right? If they play too many games. If you put the weaker players, they might just kind of get knocked off one by one, and then you're left with your one hero that just wins the entire tournament for you. But it's an interesting format. It's one of my favorite. I think it's fun to watch. I think there's a win and continue for solo players as well. I don't really know how that works as much. I'm not as familiar, but I'm assuming it sounds kind of like a round robin and a single elimination mixed together. I don't know how does it, if anyone knows how the win and continue works for solo players, let me know if that's even a thing. Okay, moving on, we have the Swiss format. So this is like, I think we're starting to get into the territory of larger groups of people, because when single elimination is good for a certain number of people, round robin is good for a certain number of people. I think Swiss is also good for a certain number of people. And Swiss is the tournament format of choice for chess. Apparently it's called the Swiss system because it originated in, you guessed it, Switzerland. And the first person who kind of suggested this system was a Swiss citizen named Dr. Julius Müller. And not to be confused with a German theologian of the same name. And the first chess tournament run under this system took place in Zurich in 1895, so says Sensei's library, I think. So it's a pretty simple thing. It almost sounds like a simple single elimination format, because what happens... I guess it's kind of different. So basically, everyone gets paired up with other people in the tournament, and then the winners get paired up with the winners, and the losers get paired up with the losers. Sounds kind of like double elimination. But then that round occurs. And then there's a point system that is assigned to everybody. So when you win a game, you gain a certain amount of points. If you lose a game, you, I guess, maybe don't get any points, or depending on how they set it up. And so it's like almost like a live action ELO system where the whole group starts off at an even playing field with no rank or ELO. And then once they play one time against somebody else, they will either have positive or negative, or positive or nothing, I guess, depending on how you set it up. And then you try to match those players up as evenly as possible. So you have the people who don't have any points playing other people who don't have any points, people who do have points playing other people who do have points. And then they play again. And then now the point disparity is going to widen, right? You're going to have people with 2 points. You're going to have people with 0 points. You're going to have people with 1 point. And then you're going to try to group those as much as you can. And you're just going to keep doing that. And I guess this kind of tournament doesn't have like an end in sight, really. But apparently this is a popular one in chess. And so if you go to a chess tournament, amateur chess tournament, I think you're going to likely find a Swiss system where you just enter the tournament at a 0 and you just play for points. And the better you do in the tournament, the stronger players you're going to face. You're going to start playing against players who have won just as much as you have, and vice versa. There is a Swiss version called Swiss with Elimination, which I don't think is as popular, because I think with amateur tournaments, we always want to keep people involved, and you don't really want people just going home. And that's kind of for drama and for higher level play, I think. But for Swiss tournaments, apparently you can introduce elimination, which kind of looks just like maybe single elimination. How does that differ, actually? I'm trying to think how that would differ if you had a Swiss system where if the losers just got eliminated and then the winners play the winners. Maybe it's not necessarily a single elimination, as it's just a point threshold, right? After a certain while, if you haven't gotten this many points, then you're gone. So kind of like a blend, right, between Swiss and single elimination. So Swiss, as I said, is popular in amateur chess, but if you've gone to a Go tournament, an amateur Go tournament, you are likely to have gone to one that is set up with McMahon rules. McMahon is spelled McMahon. If you were to read it like it was spelled, it would be called McMahon. But McMahon is a little more nuanced than Swiss tournaments, and I think rightfully so for the game of Go. It's essentially the same thing as a Swiss tournament, but you start off not at 0 with everybody else. You start off with a predetermined number of points based on your rank or your proclaimed rank. If you've gone to a tournament, I'm sure with McMahon rules, you might have remembered entering what your rank was. They might have asked you, hey, what's your rank? What do you think your rank is? Because they need to assign you McMahon points. You have... it's a simple kind of arrangement where if it's a Go tournament, if you're a Don level player, you're going to have more points. If you're a Q level player, you're going to have fewer points. And then you kind of play like Swiss. You match up the lower ranks with the lower ranks and the higher ranks with the higher ranks. Sounds like something that makes a lot of sense. I think that I don't know why in chess tournaments they don't do something similar. I would love to know if somebody is involved with the chess tournament community, why that is, why they think that Swiss tournaments are used. Maybe they do a better job. Maybe since there is more information about people's ranks, they do a better job of creating bands, right? So like, let's say you're 1,000 to 1,300 ELO, like that is one bracket, and you just go in Swiss like that. And maybe that makes sense. For Go tournaments, I think we don't have enough Go players. Maybe that's why we have to predetermine those and let the 18Q play against the 6Q sometimes, right? And the way to do that is maybe with McMahon point systems. So basically, they're essentially the same thing, right? The McMahon and Swiss are the same thing. It's just that McMahon, it's like your previous history or self-proclaimed rank already gives you a value within the tournament. And so you need a little bit of self-knowledge, a little bit of honesty. I can't imagine any Go player going in and just saying that they're higher rank. I know that I've gone to tournaments that make a comment like, if you're not sure what your rank is, go like err on the lower rank if you care about winning games. Err on the higher rank if you care about winning prizes or something like that. I thought that was funny. Like, oh yeah, you can just kind of like game the system a little. They were like almost encouraging gaming the system a little bit. But most people, I think they just, the thing is the Go players in particular are so like, if you put it a good way, it's humble about their rank. Another way you put it is like very scrutinizing or scrupulous with their rank, and it's like you just can't imagine Go players just kind of self-proclaiming like false ranks. I don't know. That's just not typically characteristic of Go players. I don't know. I have had somebody ask me, "Is this your real rank?" Like I was too strong for the 3Q. I think is how I entered the tournament, and they were like, "Are you really a 3Q?" And I thought, I was being pretty, like I wasn't trying to be overly like falsely humble about it, right? Or false modesty was not really like, I was trying to avoid false modesty by just saying my OGS rank, right? I was 3Q on OGS at the time, and OGS famously, or maybe not so famously, tries to align itself with AGA ranks. So I was just like, you know what? I don't know what my rank is. An AGA, I'm going to just say it's 3Q, just like an OGS. I did pretty well that tournament, if you remember. It was the California Open. But in any case, that is McMahon. Let's read a little historical tidbit developed by Lee McMahon and Bob Ryder in the 1960s. So this tournament system was invented by two people. Its advantage over Swiss pairing is that it avoids the problem of severely unbalanced pairings in early rounds. Right, because if you imagine going to a Swiss-style tournament, you could just get slaughtered immediately because it's just kind of random. Everybody's, depending on how big the bands are. I highly doubt they have GMs playing against 600 ELO players. I'm sure it's just that the chess community has enough players that they can set pretty narrow bands so that, you have a fighting chance against the top end of that band, and that's why you can enter with the Swiss setting. That's just my guess. I've never been to a chess tournament or have looked up anything regarding chess tournaments. McMahon pairing has become the default choice for amateur Go tournaments in Europe and America. And I've experienced that. I'm pretty sure that all the tournaments I've gone to were using McMahon pairing. There is a slight variant to this where I kind of told you, and even Go has bans, right? They have like tournament bans, and I was entered in the like high Q section, I think. It was something like that, either a single digit Q or just high Q, something like that. And then in such a ranking system, you would just give 10Q, let's say 10 Qs at the bottom. They would get 0 points, a 5Q gets 5, Don gets 10. And then they just hash it out from there. And then every time you win, you get more points, and then you start playing against more people. So theoretically, like if you're kind of in the middle of the bands and you have 5 points and you keep winning games and the Don player keeps losing games, you could catch up to the Don player and eventually get paired with them. That could happen. And so I think this is making a lot of sense to me, right? Because as I was winning my games in that tournament, I started noticing the people who I was playing against were a little bit like aggravated at like how they're losing, right? And it makes sense, right? Because if I'm climbing, I'm winning, and the people I'm playing against, they're stronger players who are kind of sinking down to my level. So I have like this emotional advantage going upwards while they're going down on a downwards trajectory, which is an interesting metagame thing to think about. But that's typically how you do it in a McMahon setting. But there's another way, which is to group the bands. So you could have a whole range of ranking. Let's say 1 to 6Q are all only going to get 2 points. So those 1 to 6Q players get 2 points. 7 to 13Q players get 1 point. 14 to 20Q players get 0 points to start off. I don't know about this multiple band setting because this kind of implies that those 20Q players are going to be playing games with those 1Q players. And if you know anything about Go and if you've played enough games, you know that there's just no chance for that 20Q player to do anything about their situation against those other players. So it's like, I don't know, it's kind of to bleed those ranks into each other. I don't know. I don't think it works for Go because Go's strength is so consistent and steady that even a difference in rank of like 2Q is like so consistently going to end up with the higher ranked player winning. That's just been my experience, right? It's just very difficult for that. And that's why Go ranks are so valuable. Once you rank up, you have really achieved something great because you can really hold that over, obviously not in a malicious way, but like hold that over a weaker player and just say like, hey, I've earned my stripes here and I can beat you consistently. That's just something that just is in the nature of Go. Okay, so McMahon is a huge one because it's just probably the one everyone has the most practical experience with. But let's talk a little bit about pairing methods before we conclude here. So pairing methods is how to start the tournament off. And like for example, when I talked about single elimination, right? You had 32 players with 16 pairings. You could just randomize those pairings, which would be the absolute simplest method, as long as you have a randomizer or dice or papers and a hat to do that with. But there are other ways to do it, depending on what values you want to reinforce. One of the most interesting ones is called the slaughter pairing method. You might have seen this word somewhere when you're looking at tournaments, slaughter. This is also, I have not seen this before, but less commonly known as fold or split and fold. I think I always see the word slaughter. It's such a vivid word that it just sticks in your brain and you kind of remember what it means. And it's called slaughter because the pairings are decided as follows. Let's say, okay, and for this to work, you need pre-ranks. For the 32 players entering the game, you need some kind of seeding, right? Seeding meaning how to arrange the players in the first round based on their strength. So if you have self-reported ranks, for example, in a Go tournament, and you have people who are 30Q, and they're like, I'm 30Q, I just started playing this game, and I just know the rules, and I wanted to enter my first tournament. People like that exist. And then there's the 7 Dan. Like, oh, I have played Go since I was in the womb as a fetus, and I came out of my mother's womb as a 1 Dan, and I'm a 7 Dan now because that's as far as the AGA will let me to go, and so that's my rank, right? That's the spectrum of players, and let's say they all have their self-reported rank. Well, guess what? In Slaughter, you're going to pair that 7 Dan against the 30Q. You're going to pair the 6Q against, or sorry, not the 6Q, the 6 Dan against the 29Q. You're going to pair the 5 Dan against the 28Q. I mean, this is just kind of artificially saying that every rank has one player in it. But essentially, the idea of slaughter pairing is to get the strongest player to play the weakest player, the second strongest player to play the second weakest player, and so on and so forth. So the most interesting games in the first round end up being those middle games because those are actually players of similar rank, right? If you keep going down like a double-sided, burning a rope on both ends, that middle section, those are actually similarly ranked players, and they're going to actually have a good game. Whereas those extremities, they're going to get slaughtered. That's the idea. And you might be wondering, why would you torture these poor, weak players by putting them up against the strongest players in the whole tournament? Well, the value that you are emphasizing with Slaughter is to kind of get things going, right? You have a lot of players in this tournament. You have some weak players. you want them to participate, but in the end, what we're trying to do here on this tournament is to find the strongest player. And in order to do that, we need to get rid of all you weaklings. Get out. Have fun. Thanks for participating. Goodbye. And let's get to the good games. Let's get to the stronger players, and let's keep going like that. That is the idea of the slaughter pairing method. Another method, if that's not your cup of tea, this is for, I think, slaughter. I think I would value more as a viewer than a player, right? Like if I'm a strong player, I don't care about playing a weak player. If I'm a weak player, I don't want to play against someone who's going to slaughter me. But for viewing, it's good. It speeds things up and gets to the strong games. Slide is another format, which is a little more of a compromise after slaughter, where, to simply put it, the strongest of the strong play against the strongest of the weak. Does that make sense? So it's not like a pure slaughter. Well, maybe it's even more bloody in this type of... I would say that like it's typically not seen as bloody, but it could potentially be even bloodier than the slaughter. Because if you put the strongest of the strong versus the strongest of the weak, and then the weakest of the strong against the weakest of the weak, maybe those strong players are all just going to demolish the weak players. Whereas in a slaughter, you at least have in the middle area some even games. Whereas this one, maybe it's just every game is just a landslide victory for the stronger players. Most people say it's not as, but maybe it's just, it's more of a massacre, potentially, but the murders are fair. Whereas in slaughter, you have some absolute brutal killings from the top and the bottom end. Whereas, I don't know. It's just, there are pros and cons, right? The strength of both of these formats is to keep those strong players from playing each other, right? You see what's going on here? With both slaughter and slide, you don't want the number 1 seed and the number 2 seed to go off against each other and eliminate each other early on and prevent a fantastic final game. What we want is the strongest player to play against the second strongest player in the very end of the game, or in the very end of the tournament. And that's what they're trying to go for with these formats. Because otherwise you might have someone who's very, very competent and very strong getting eliminated too early in the tournament because the most interesting game was played in the first round. And that's probably not something we want when we are watching a tournament. Okay, another pairing method is King of the Hill. Now this is exactly the opposite of what I was trying to avoid with slaughter and slide. This is actually putting 1 and 2 against each other, and then 3 and 4, and then 5 and 6, and so on and so forth. And so this is almost like the most ELO accurate pairing method, where you're trying to get everyone to have a great first round, a close game in the first round. This is good for exciting games at the start of the game of the tournament, but it's eventually just gonna fizzle out, I think. Basically, you're going to have a reverse effect of the slaughter. You're going to have this incredible first round where every game is so close. And as the pyramid gets narrower, as the tournament continues on, you're going to start seeing some strong players play against some very weak players. And then the game has basically been settled. Maybe the most dramatic, though, if one of those weaker players does end up winning the tournament, that would be cool. But overall, for drama, for television, for public entertainment, King of the Hill, maybe not the most popular type of pairing method. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, random pairing is always an option. That can also inflict a lot of chaos on the players. But those are basically the pairing methods that I wanted to go over. And then to top it all off, why don't I give you a couple of tournament formats of my own creation. Specifically for Go, I think that Go has a mechanic that is not explored as much. And maybe it's because we don't want to change the game, because this really does change the game, but base the tournament results on the points accrued. Variants of Go where you kind of pay more attention to the points in the game, I think are interesting to me, and it's a possibility that we should explore for Go. One of the most popular ones is pandegi, or gambling. right? Obviously, I don't want to really promote gambling, but it is one of the formats of Go where points matter. You gamble for a certain number of points on the board, and it's a very different game. You're going to play differently. You're going to try to keep your points. You're going to try to maximize your points. You're going to think about that rather than just getting the 51%, which is what Go is almost always about. And so for a tournament format, I think you could also do a points accrued format in a round robin where you try to gain as many points as you can. And maybe it's more of a difference, right? Your point difference between you and the other player. And so that if you win by a larger margin against your opponent, you get to keep those points. And then you do a round robin, and every time you play a game, you get plus or minus points. And from that, whoever has the highest total at the end of the round robin wins the entire round robin. Now, of course, there are some difficulties with using points in a tournament format. You could game the system a little bit, right? Maybe somebody wants to throw the game, and that could ruin the entire tournament. And someone says, I don't want to, I'm just going to give you all my points. I'm going to just commit suicide all over the board. That could be a problem. So, obviously this could just be a lighthearted, fun way to do a little tournament. But if you wanted to make it a little more serious and prevent some more problems, maybe you add a cap, right? Maybe you have like a 20 point cap. You could get a maximum of 20 points or so. Maybe something like that. I don't know. I think it's just an interesting idea to be explored. And then another format that kind of looks like a win and continue format. This I came up with when playing table tennis with a group of my friends, and one of the players was just way stronger than everybody else. He was just beating everybody left and right. So I thought, what would be fun if we made him the boss, right? He's the boss. And we try to take points from him. And he tries to just prevent people from winning. And it's very difficult to win a point off of this guy. And so for us, what we would do is we would rotate as the rest of the team. It's like a 1v4 or 1v5 kind of format. And I always love that in Mario Party when it's like a 1v3. I think those kinds of asymmetric games are so interesting and fun. But in this particular game, he would stand there at the table and we would each have a go at winning a point. And what he would try to do is defeat all of us without losing a single point. And so if I would step up and I would try to win a point. And if he wins the point, which is likely to happen, I would step back. The next player would try, and we would fiddle with the rules a bit, right? I would give myself 3 lives, maybe. Everyone has 3 lives each. He has 5 lives total, right? So you had, let's say, 1v5, and he has 5 lives, and each player has 3 lives. So that's, if you just kind of do the math, that's 5 versus 15, right? So the lives are in our favor, but he's stronger than us. So it was an interesting way to get everyone on the same page, even though one of them is way stronger. So in Go, I think you could do something similar, although Go games take a lot longer. So maybe this is better suited for like a correspondence thing, but you would assign one player as the boss, someone who's very strong. Maybe, I don't know. I think you'd have to do a little bit of tweaking and say, maybe it's just you're trying to get one game off of him. He's trying to defeat every single person. And obviously you can adjust things with, the handicap system. Another kind of variant to this I had was this is like if you maybe don't have a significantly stronger player in your group, you could go for streaks, right? Boss streaks, I guess you could call it. But basically you would have just one player start off as the boss, and they play against somebody else. And if they win, they get to stay the boss. The next person plays. If they win, they get to stay, and their streak is 2 now. And they keep going until somebody takes down the boss. That person then becomes the boss, and now they have a chance to create a streak that is longer than the boss's streak. Obviously for Go, this is going to take a very long time. So again, correspondence tournament over a period of months might be more appropriate for something like this. And obviously you can do kind of like a handicap evening of everything where everybody gets evened out with handicap stones, and it's just kind of more of an even thing, and see who can maintain the longest streak for points. So those are a couple of my creations. I'm sure maybe someone else out there might have come up with something similar, but I just wanted to share some of that with you, and hopefully this was a good introduction to the various tournament formats that are out there for Go players. One tournament format that I didn't mention that I've always wanted to be a part of, but unfortunately difficult to do because we just don't have enough players in the community, and it's just a lot more taxing logistically, is the 3v3 tournament that you see featured in Hikaru no Go, where you form groups of 3 players and you have a first, second, and third seat, and you go up against other teams of 3, and the winner of the teams of the games is the team with at least 2 out of 3 wins, if not 3 out of 3. I've always wanted to become part of a team like that and then play against others in a team tournament, but that's so much work and it's very difficult to organize. You need people to be able to self-organize into the teams, or maybe just kind of say like, hey, we're doing a 3v3 style tournament and we're going to just randomly assign you into teams. Maybe that's the way to do it. That would be really fun. I would love to do that someday. If somebody has gone to a tournament like that and participated in one, I'd love to hear from you. So please do share. But now it's time for the DDK Advice Corner, and the tip of the day is don't try to figure out Go and foster good habits instead. Now, what I mean by this is I think a lot of people, including me, when they first start off with Go, they try to figure it out. They try to say like, oh, what can I do to like finagle myself out of this one or that one, or what strategy can I employ to try to get all these points? I don't know. They just have this like plan of like figuring Go out. Like I think I know how to win. I'm saying maybe try to do less of that and do more of general habit forming that you hear from experienced Go players. Doing things like following proverbs, right? Making sure Go for proverbs at the forefront of your mind and thinking about them, what they mean, and how you can apply them in your games, and where you've seen things happen where a proverb may apply. Making good shape. What is good shape? Thinking about that and applying yourself, making good shape, doing what you think is good shape, and then realizing it's not good shape. Making proper or honte moves. Right? Doing things that are supposedly quote unquote proper and you don't know why, but they say it is. So you start doing that, making a habit out of those kinds of moves. Do those things. It sounds kind of like you're maybe like doing guesswork and it's like not certain, but I encourage you to try to do these things, these little habits that kind of vaguely push you in the right direction instead of focusing so much on finding the every last trick Tsuji, or implementing Hail Mary plans in your game, or just trying to figure it out and like put Go into your brain. Instead of doing that, just experience Go and try to, think of those Tai Chi moves that, the instructor tells you, oh, you got to move with, like, I have no Tai Chi experience, but okay, maybe a Taekwondo is a better experience. They say, do these patterns, right? As I have some Taekwondo experience. So they say, okay, kick like this and snap your leg like that. And you're like, I don't know why you want me to snap my leg when I do a front kick, but I'll do it. And they tell you to kick like 10 times. They tell you to stretch. They tell you to do this. And you're like, I don't know why I'm doing all this stuff. And then all of a sudden you're a black belt. Do that, right? Follow the instructions and try to take that in rather than saying like, oh yeah, why would I snap my leg? And instead I will, or like, have my hands up. I'm going to keep my hands down and I'm going to see if I can use my elbows. And it's like, well, if you want to do that, go learn Muay Thai, right? I'm kind of getting a little carried away with the analogy, but basically you're not going to be able to figure out Go. So try to let Go come to you rather than you trying to stuff your Go into your own brain. Now it's time for listener mail. Spooky writes, Richard Bozelich seems like a really interesting guy. He could make a good topic for a podcast episode. Maybe I'll explore that one day. I'd have to do some research. I don't know much about him, actually, other than the fact that he's very prolific in the Go world. Thanks for the suggestion, Spooky. B writes, hello, Justin. First, I want to thank you for this week's episode. I highly agree that Go teaches lessons we can apply in life, and I wish to share a few of my own that I observed both on and off the board. Firstly, I want to describe how Go taught me that mistakes are the most important components of improvement and growth. It is hard to predict the mistakes we make on the Go bound and in life, so it is just best to make them and learn how to avoid them in the future. A simple analogy would be that nobody learns to ride a bicycle by just thinking about it. We get on the bicycle, fall a few times, improve, and then we can ride a bicycle. That's a good comparison, and I think the thing is that what we conceive, I think when somebody wants to get good at riding a bike, nobody's sitting there thinking about like holding the handles and pedaling, although that actually might help a little bit. They're always going to be thinking, I'm going to get on my bicycle so I can learn. But Go is such a mental thing. I think there is this false notion of like, I can figure it out in my head when I'm not playing. But you really do have to keep playing and make mistakes, as you said. Secondly, Go teaches us it is okay to fail even when you are expected to succeed. In recent times, I have played correspondence games with fellow DDK who took lessons from the local association that my teacher introduced to me. Despite the fellow DDK being many ranks below me, I lost my first few games with the fellow DDK due to the fellow DDK's unusual style. It is after getting a feel for the flaws in the fellow DDK's way that I can control the games to my favor. Sometimes unfamiliar territory, regardless of its supposed difficulty, will be a struggle to navigate for the first time, which requires time to map out. So I want to make a comment about that. I think that there is a bit of advice floating around that says if you're a weak Go player, go try to play against strong players, right? And that's very good advice. If you're a DDK, maybe you want to play SDKs. But one thing that you kind of lose out on if you only do that is learning how to play against your own rank. As you experienced here, as you're sharing with me, your fellow DDK might have been ranks below you, but they introduced a style that you may never have encountered before. And that's only a style a DDK would play. If you played against an SDK, and let's say you're someone who's dedicated to just being better, and you said, I'm only going to play SDKs until I get to SDK, you keep doing that, maybe you become pretty good, right? You start playing SDK-looking moves and everything, and then one day you play DDK and you get slaughtered. Why? Because you didn't learn how to defeat the DDKs. Those SDKs, they don't play DDK moves, but they did climb the ranks of the DDKs, and they know how to defeat those DDK mistakes and strategies. So it's important for you to kind of go through the entire gradient of ranks. For an on-the-board observation, I am always intrigued by how we exchange and Go. Sometimes we benefit from territory, and sometimes we benefit from influence. But to determine what we want, we need to take account of our prospects, both ours and our opponents, and the effects of these exchanges on those prospects. Then we can decide after a time of evaluation. As the reply to episode 128, let me just quickly check what that was. Cultural pollination. Oh, that's the episode I did with All Things Go. I don't desire Go to be popular because as a chess player, I realize most chess players from the chess boom during COVID-19 pandemic don't play chess. They only consume content. The players who are interested in playing are the niche community of tournament players consisting of the players of the school or state team, as well as the amateur enthusiasts. Despite the challenges of playing with them, you will learn a lot from them and have conversations that will contribute to our future growth. So I think for sure there are a number of chess enthusiasts that don't play chess and they just consume chess contents. I'm one of them. Like I haven't played chess in a while, but there are certain content creators like Agadmator and Gotham or Levy who basically all their content is explaining chess and like going over games. And as someone who's not really like active in actually playing chess, I don't watch those. Like I watch for like little moments here and there and things like that, but I don't really like follow the game breakdowns and stuff like that. So if you're watching that, I feel like you're likely to actually be a chess player. Therefore, I hope that Go can build its community, meaning that every region has its small community of enthusiasts who are interested in the growth of the other community members, and these communities can gather in the yearly national gathering or tournament, which will fulfill our needs to have peers. I hope I didn't say anything too upsetting, but this is what I believe to be the most beneficial to me as a Go player based on my positive experiences with the weekly practices by my university's chess club, as well as the monthly gathering by the local association. I don't know. I'm not sure what you thought might have been upsetting about what you said. I found a lot of that just to be common sense and something that really resonates with me. If we have more small pocket communities for Go, and then they can unite together and collaborate into having bigger meetings, I think that's the dream. That's really the dream, I think. So if you're thinking of starting a club because there's nothing in your area, I highly encourage you to do so. You would be doing the community a service, even if the club is 1, 2, or 3 players. Lastly, I want to express how I enjoyed the interview with Kai and can relate to the feeling of how people think Go is Othello, because when I was young, a friend from high school introduced me to Othello, but introduced it as Go. Huh, that's interesting. I feel like that never happens, where someone is like, here's Go, and it's actually Othello. I can highly understand the mistake, as the two games share many similarities. Both involve dividing a game board, and both games it is highly advantageous to occupy the corners and sides. Really, I did not know that about Othello. One more interesting thing about me, I'm also a speed cuber, and a major similarity it has with Go is the improvement aspect in both endeavors. Improvement requires us to identify problems that hold us back and find solutions that will take us to new heights. I hope you enjoy these interesting thoughts and opinions I have been thinking about in recent times. Keep playing Go, B. I definitely enjoyed your thoughts, B. Thank you so much for writing in, and it's so funny to hear from another Speedcuber. Keep Speedcuber Go players unite, because I'm just seeing them everywhere. As much as I want to see that there is a similarity in the improvement aspects of both of those things, I feel like the speed cubing improvement is so much more linear. Like, you just know how to, maybe once you get to a point where you can solve it really quickly and you're trying to whittle down more point seconds, like fractions of seconds, it starts to become a little nebulous, a little more like Go, like what can I actually do with my brain and my fingers and my hands to actually improve at it. But it just seems a little more direct to me than Go. But regardless, it's so funny that there's a Venn diagram of these two with a good amount of people in the middle. Aman Rana 25 writes, just wanted to drop a quick comment and say I really enjoy this podcast and appreciate the work you put into it. Thanks. I really appreciate a comment like that. It's short and sweet, and I am happy that you enjoy it. And I hope I didn't butcher your name too badly. Thank you for writing in. Sadaharu writes, Go teaches you that you must think and read ahead before you play to avoid making careless mistakes. At the same time, it also teaches you not to think too much, as the difference in choices may not make a big impact on the result, so it's just better to decide on one option quickly and learn from it later. If you think too much, you may run out of time for other important things. Now that sounds really deep. That sounds like life advice, honestly. And that's the thing with Go. It's like it has all these things built in naturally to the game where it's like it needs you to do something but not too much of it. It's a game of moderation, really. And then I think we've all fallen into this trap in real life where we realize something is important and then we kind of overinvest into it, the importance of it, and we lose perspective of everything, and it just doesn't matter that much, right? It doesn't matter. It seemed important at the time, but it doesn't matter as much as you originally thought it was. Very common human experience. Thank you for sharing, Sadaharu. And then finally, we have Splatitable writing. Did you hear that? No. So this person submitted a joke, and I'm going to share that as tradition at the end. Anyway, I haven't listened to the episode yet, but since I'm finally caught up to the current release, I wanted to let you know I've been enjoying this podcast a lot. Thanks for sharing it with us. Thank you so much for letting me know, and thanks. It's awesome that you caught up. If you're one of those kind of creeping along and haven't caught up to the most recent episode, well, hello there. Thanks for getting this far. I'm keeping you in my thoughts. Can't wait for you to catch up. But anyway, thank you for writing in. Splatitable. Okay, question of the week this week. What's your favorite tournament format to watch? What's your favorite tournament to play in? Are they different? Are they the same? Did I miss any formats that you think are noteworthy? Let me know in the comments wherever you found this episode, or email me directly at starpointpaduk@gmail.com. That's starpointbaduk@gmail.com. If you're a YouTube listener, I would greatly appreciate a like and a subscribe. If you're a podcast listener, reviews and ratings also help. A very special thank you to James B., Brendan S., Tristan, Jeff H., Tyraniton, and Andrew P. for supporting Starpoint. If you want to support the show in any capacity, you can go to kofi.com/starpointpaduk, that's ko-fi, or check out the Starpoint store at store.starpointpaduk.com. And come on over to the Discord. You can find the link in the description. And as I mentioned just a second ago, Splatitable writes, "Did you hear that Shin Jin-seok just got arrested? It's because he played in the middle of the Go ban." Very well written. Thanks for the joke, Splatitable, and thank you for listening. Keep playing Go.